family. I was in the Navy. My dog, Jib, we're all J's. Janet, Jenna, Julia, John, and Jib. Got all the letters covered. The one thing I do that we didn't talk about is I collect shoes for the shoeman.org. He uses used shoes. He sells them on the third world market and uses that money to do water projects. Good passion of mine. If you were to pull up to my house right now, 3/4 of my porch is about 4 foot deep in bags of shoes. So that'll be going away before Christmas, hopefully, and help somebody have a good, clean glass of water come springtime. So Berkshire Hathaway, Home Service Elite Property. Berkshire Hathaway has been around as a real estate company for about 6 years. They were Prudential, and then this kind of smart guy, Warren Buffett, Jimmy's cousin, bought them out because he saw that real estate's where the action's going. He sees that as the up and coming. There's quotes from him that is the up and coming place to have your money for investing. So today I'm going to talk about home buyers and how I go through home buyers, because the key is that we don't buy homes every day. It's not like groceries. It's something you do on average once every 7 years. Some of us longer, some less, but about every 7 years. And so this is not a process in which you know. So I'm going to go over my process to show you how I do it so that my customers feel at ease as we go through it. Because there's contracts, there's contingencies, there's timelines, there's disclosures, there's home inspections. And yes, you could buy and sell your own home by yourself. But you got to look up and know all these things. You got to know the timelines, or else you can get yourself into a world of hurt. So the first thing I do is when I meet a client, whether it's come from an open house, come from a mortgage operator, who knows, wherever it comes from, is I sit down and I start a checklist. What do they want? How many bedrooms do they need? Which is the Maslow's scale over there. How many do you actually need? How many would you be comfortable with? How many would be if you had no issues, no money issues, no nothing? Where would you want to live? Does somebody want to live out in the country? Do they want to live in the city? Location, schools, all these things go in. And I sit down and I don't just have a 2-minute conversation. I try to have a 45-minute conversation, trying to figure out, A, what you need, and B, what would be ideal? What would be it so you could live in this house forever, possibly? Or maybe through this conversation, I figure out that you want a house that's going to get you through schooling of your kids, or to the point in which you can retire and go down south where it's warm all winter. But I sit down and have a long conversation with them. Because everybody thinks you just look at it and find that perfect house right away, right? Go on Zillow, find it, you move in. It's not quite that easy. Because once we get that criteria down, and I'll set you up on a listing cart, something that every time something that fits your criteria, it's going to shoot that house out to you, or once a day typically, because I don't want to fill your inbox with emails. But so it's going to be sending you homes that fit that criteria or come darn close. And so we're going to have to work on that. And as we find homes, while you're looking at all the pictures, while the buyer is looking out, checking out the pictures, maybe driving the neighborhood if they're diligent and checking things out, I'm doing these other things. I'm checking out the schools to make sure they fit the criteria that you've given me. I'm checking out your access to the highway. A lot of people live over here, work over in St. Louis. So Fairview Heights might be a good fit. Mascoutah may be too far because you don't want to spend that extra time in the car. Or you might want to live up in Edwardsville, but you might need something that's closer access to the freeway than way up north at Holiday Shores, where it's a good 10-minute drive just to get to the freeway so that you can get over to your job in St. Louis. Disclosures. When you look at a house on Zillow, everything looks good. Everything's all pretty. The pictures are lovely. I'm looking at the disclosures. I'm finding out, well, is there water in the basement? Have they ever had a mold issue? Do they have radon? Have they ever heard radon? Do they know anything about it? I'm looking up these things, trying to check it out so that when you get there, you're not going to be surprised by anything. We already know if it qualifies for your standard or not. One of the neat things, I laugh, is we've added on to the disclosure list in the last couple of years, item number 23. Has this house ever been used as a meth lab? It's sad that we have to do that, but unfortunately, homes in this area, and especially over in the Missouri area, once they've been used for a meth lab, all that gets into the drywall. It gets in there, and the chemicals evidently are really bad and don't come out. Bad for you and for your kids. So it's one of those things that I'm looking up to get it so that I can get you into the right house without looking at a bunch of extra houses. Here's my house. This is actually in Illinois. Anybody know it? The Farnsworth house? Mies van der Rohe, up north. That would be a great modern looking house. Won't find many of those over here. The BMW dealership's the closest thing. Oops. So we find the house. We negotiate an offer. The offer goes back and forth. It's a negotiation like any negotiation, which unfortunately a lot of us don't do anymore. A lot of us, we go to the store and we buy something, we pay that price and maybe have a coupon, but we never ask for a discount. We never ask for different things. I go through and I try to help you get the best deal you can as my buyer. Even if I'm dual agent representing both sides, I'm going to take your side when I formulate that information and try to take it and get you the best deal. Whether it's getting a deal with a contingency on it because you need to sell your house, getting a quick move-in date so that you can move in and not have to pay storage for your stuff and live with mom and dad or aunt and uncle or a friend for a month, or whether it's just getting the best price for what you're getting. Now, once we have the contract, that's just the beginning. Now you have 20 days to get your inspections done. We always recommend that at a minimum, you get a whole house inspection. The home inspector we've talked about, that would be great in here. He goes from the crawl space all the way up to the roof, checks out all the systems. He'll run all the appliances. He's checking to make sure you're getting a good home. On top of that, the other inspections you get are a termite, because if you talk to any termite inspector, it's not if you have termites, it's when you're going to get termites. And then you'll have a radon, especially if you have a basement. Radon is a naturally occurring gas. It comes out, it hooks onto dust in the air and gets in your lungs and stays in there. Really bad for kids and older people. John, make sure you get your radon tested. Then if you have a septic system, you should get it tested. I've got all these inspectors. I know all sorts of inspectors. And I tell you, the septic inspection is probably the most interesting one if you're ever out there. I've got a guy that he's got a master's degree, I think, in septic. And he will explain it all to you. You'll know more about shit than you'll ever want to know. It's amazing. It's actually very interesting, too. But you have all these inspections done. Once you have the inspections, you do your inspection response. This is all within that 20 days. And what this is doing, this is asking for things that are not things like paint or carpet. This is things that you couldn't see when you were going through looking at the house. You know, the electrical system, you're not going to check every plug. You're not going to go up in the attic and find that there's a rafter that's been broken because of the high wind. But that's when you negotiate this out. What the seller is going to do to make your house safe on these items that you can't see. Meanwhile, I'm also checking up, making sure that the city occupancy inspections are getting done. The city one, the seller doesn't have near as much option. It's a pass-fail thing. He's checking the electric, checking windows, he's checking, the simple safety issues, fire detectors, CO detectors, things of that nature. And unfortunately, when you moved in, it's probably changed since then. So where you think you're safe, now most places require a smoke detector in every bedroom. My house, I know, has it only in the hallway, which was legal when I moved in. It has a CO2 detector on each level, but I don't think it's close enough to one of the bedrooms. Things of this nature, the inspector is going to tell me, and I help the seller make sure he gets them placed and done so that when we move in, we can get our occupancy inspection and then get your water and electricity and all turned over into your name, which is all a negotiation again. Here in these inspections, we're negotiating what they're going to pay for, what you're going to have to pay for, etc. Then it kind of goes quiet. After spending several days in cars with you, driving around, looking at all these homes, going through these inspections, I always try to show up, make sure the inspection gets started well. Now it goes quiet. Depends on how many days go by. What I am doing is I'm following up with the title company, making sure that everything's looking good, making sure they're getting all their numbers from the bank, making sure everything is rolling the way it is, everybody's getting everything's signed. I'm checking up with the whatever inspection response we had. Are they getting the windows done? Is everything on track to get done? Are there any VA loans sometimes predicate, which means to get this loan, you must complete this task. And it can be a simple thing as fixing the deck, or it can be big like a whole new roof. So I'm making sure those things are getting taken care of. And then I'm also following up with your loan your mortgage guy, making sure that you're getting the paperwork to him, making sure everything's on track, making sure we're going to make it to closing. And then we do a final walkthrough within 4 days of the closing. We do a final walkthrough. We check it out. Just checked out Spruce Hill that we had some work done by Mr. McDermott. Loved it. They loved the ladder that was put in. Everything looks good. Then we go to the closing table. We close. I make sure that you bring a valid ID. I make sure you bring your cashier's check. Or if you're getting money back, you don't have to bring anything. We show up on time. We make everything go smooth as possible. And then I always take a picture with you holding your new keys. Even on the house that didn't have keys because it was electronic, I made them hold my keys. So just because holding up nothing doesn't work. So there I am, but I'm not gone. I hang around. I'm there for you. I have clients that call me and ask me about different things, especially relocation clients that are new to the area. I am there for them to give them a big hug and to point them to you, and you to get that work done. When they need other things in the community, I help them to find those places with kids or etc. Than who I am as a realtor. Now I show you all this because this is what I go over with the first time I meet a new buyer. Because like I said, every 7 years, even if you're on average and every 7 years you buy a new house, these rules change, the different forms change. And I want to get them as comfortable as possible with the system, with the way the process goes, so that in those days that, okay, we're just letting them do their work, we're letting the work happen, they understand what's going on and aren't nervous and worried. So that's who I am as a realtor. I have a new initials, a seller's representation specialist now. I just finished that certification. And then more about me as a person. I always try to put this out so they know who I am and what I do through it all. Are there any questions on home buying? Or any questions about real estate at all?
Well, I was listening about it the other day when I was looking at the paper and all of the sheer number of real estate agents there are. So, what when I'm talking to a client of mine who said, we don't want to invest that in time. It doesn't make sense to move. What are some things that I can say to them about you that you think sets you apart from that sea of people?
And with the economy doing well, house building coming back up, yeah, more people are getting into real estate. What sets me apart, first of all, is I do have a bachelor's degree in architecture. When I walk into a house with somebody, they go, yeah, let's blow out this wall and this wall. That commercial on TV right now that's like, the contractor's like, yeah, and we can get a new beam, and that's going to take extra money, and we'll spend all your money. I can, kind of foresee that because I understand how houses are built, through my architecture degree. So I help them see and envision their future in the house. I try to be very prepared and do all my homework before. Anytime I can, I go see houses before I take my client out to see them. It does two things. It makes me look better when I walk in because I know where the lights are and I'm not fumbling around. And B, I can go through that house in like 15 minutes, 2 days before and go, oh, no, we've seen these other houses. This isn't going to work. I'm not going to waste their time. So I do the extra effort. And I'm out there every week trying to look at least 10 houses on my own, just so I know what's out there in the area. So, and then the other thing is I'm always trying to prepare them for the next step. I want them to know so that they're more comfortable. When I'm selling a house, and you know this because I helped one of your clients, first thing I do is, okay, we're going to have to get a city occupancy. It's this number, you need to call and set it up. This is what they're looking for. It's on this website so that you can have them come out once, fix everything or check everything, and it's all clear and you're ready to go. That's a peace of mind. A lot of people wait until after they have a contract and then they call Belleville. And Belleville sometimes is like a 3-week wait just to get the inspection. Well, if you're closing in a month and they're coming out in 3 weeks, that means you only got a week to fix it and get stuff back in, or else you're going to have to delay your closing. So I try to make that emphasis that I'm trying to be a proactive realtor, not one that waits for things. So. Anything else? Thank you.